I clean the gutters and mow the lawn for half the retired doctors in Maple Bluff. That's how I ended up driving Nathan Cole to his physical therapy appointments 3 mornings a week, because his own father-in-law-to-be, that would be me, had a truck with a bench seat and time on his hands, and because Nathan Cole had absolutely no idea whose truck he was sitting in. Let me back up. My name's Walter Hines. I'm 58. I spent 31 years running a landscaping crew here in Wisconsin, and I handed the business off to my nephew 2 years ago because my knees finally said enough. Retirement lasted about 4 months before my wife Carol told me I was rearranging the spice rack for the third time that week and needed to find somewhere else to put my energy. So I picked up part-time work for a little medical transport outfit that shuttles people to appointments when they can't drive themselves, post-surgery folks. Mostly older clients, a few younger ones recovering from something or other. Steady, quiet work. Nobody asks your opinion. You just drive. Nathan blew out his knee playing rec league basketball back in the spring, some kind of ligament tear, and for 6 weeks he needed rides to and from his PT sessions because he couldn't operate a clutch yet. He was polite enough the first few times. 34 years old, worked in commercial real estate, wore the kind of watch that costs more than my truck. He spent most rides on his phone, which suited me fine. Here's the thing he didn't know. About 8 months earlier, my daughter Bethany had brought home a man named Nathan she was seeing, and I'd met him exactly once, at a crowded 4th of July barbecue at my sister's place, for about 90 seconds, in bad light, with my reading glasses on, and a beard I've since shaved off for the summer. He shook my hand, said something about the burgers, and moved on to charm somebody else. I didn't think much of it at the time. I certainly never imagined that same man would end up needing a ride to physical therapy from a stranger named Walter who turned out to be his girlfriend's father. It was the third ride, maybe the fourth, when he said her name. He was on a call, talking about weekend plans, and he said, "Bethany wants to do the lake house thing again," but I told her we'd see. Something in my chest went cold and quiet at the same time. I looked at him in the rearview, a beat too long. Same jaw, same watch probably. It clicked into place the way a key finally turns in an old lock took some working. But there it was. He never looked twice at me. Why would he? I was just the driver. Gray ball cap, sunglasses, work shirt with somebody else's company logo on it because that's what the transport service issued us. To Nathan Cole, I was furniture that happened to steer. I didn't say anything. I want to be honest about why. Part of it was pure curiosity, I'll admit that. But mostly it was this. Bethany had been quieter than usual the last time she'd visited. Not sad, exactly. Careful, like she was measuring her words before she used them, which isn't like her at all. She's 31, works as a physical therapist herself. Ironically enough, different clinic than the one I was driving Nathan to, and she's never been a careful talker in her life. So when I recognized the man in my back seat, some part of me thought, maybe I'm about to understand something. That night I told Carol. We were on the back porch, same as always. 2 folding chairs and the bug zapper going and the Brewers game on low from the kitchen radio. She set her lemonade down slow, the way she does when she wants me to know she's really listening. "You're sure it's him?" she said. "I'm sure. And he doesn't recognize you at all. Not even a little." Carol thought about that for a while. Then she said the thing she always says when I get worked up about something before I've got the full picture. "Walter, don't go looking for a fire in a house you haven't walked into yet." She was right, and I knew it, and I told her I'd just keep driving him and keep my mouth shut and see what there was to see. Nothing more than that. I promised her that. I mostly kept the promise. The next few weeks, a pattern started showing itself. Nathan talked on speaker in my truck like I wasn't a person with ears. Same as most of these clients do, I guess, because to them, the driver isn't really in the room. He talked to coworkers about deals, talked to his mother about holiday plans, and eventually he started talking to somebody named Priya about something he called the transition. I didn't know what the transition was, not at first, but I heard him say, "Once Bethany and I are settled, this'll all make more sense." And I heard him say it in a tone that had zero uncertainty in it, like a done deal, like weather that was already forecast and just waiting to arrive. My daughter had never once mentioned any transition to me or Carol. Not on Sunday dinners, not on the phone, not ever. A week later, I got a bigger piece. Nathan came out of his condo complex looking pleased with himself, phone already to his ear before his seatbelt was buckled. "Yeah, the offer came through," he said. "Senior project manager, Charlotte office." A pause. Then, no, she doesn't know yet. I nearly missed the turn onto Fond du Lac Avenue. Charlotte, North Carolina. 900 miles from Maple Bluff, Wisconsin, where my daughter had lived her whole life, where our whole family was, where she had a lease and a caseload of patients, and a mother who needed her nearby more than she let on since her hip surgery last year. That Sunday, Bethany came for dinner like she does most weeks. Carol made her pot roast. Bethany brought a salad she barely touched. I tried to be casual about it. Asked how work was going. She said fine, busy, the usual complaints about insurance paperwork. I asked if she and Nathan had any trips planned. Not really, she said. Why? No reason. Just wondering if you two ever talk about, the future, moving somewhere new. She laughed, actual laughter, no hesitation in it. Dad, I love it here. I'm not going anywhere. Then she added, like it settled the matter. Besides, Nathan knows how much this town means to me. I didn't sleep that night. Carol rolled over around 1 in the morning and asked if I was still awake, and I said yes. And she asked if I believed Bethany, and I said absolutely, and she said, then maybe Nathan hasn't told her yet. And neither of us said anything else because we both understood what that would mean if it were true. The next couple weeks, I kept my eyes and ears open without pushing. Nathan mentioned the paperwork to somebody on the phone, said, just have the attorney finalize the agreement before the engagement party. That way it's clean going in. I didn't know what agreement he meant until 3 days later, when he was more specific with somebody else, talking about keeping the accounts separate from day one, no complications later. A prenuptial agreement, drawn up, apparently already reviewed, that my daughter had never once brought up to us. Around that same stretch of weeks, I overheard him tell a buddy, half laughing, she'll figure out the flexibility once she's not commuting to that clinic every day. Bethany loved her job. She'd built a whole caseload of patients she genuinely cared about, stayed late for people, cried once at our kitchen table over a stroke patient who'd finally taken his first unassisted steps. Nathan talked about her career like it was a hobby she'd eventually set down, same as I might set down a crossword. I mentioned all this to Carol one evening, and for the first time, she looked truly rattled, not just cautious. Walter, she said, you need to be careful here. You could be about to blow up your relationship with our daughter over something you half heard from the front seat of a truck. She wasn't wrong to worry. So the next time Bethany visited, just her and me on the porch while Carol was inside on the phone with her sister, I tried to ease into it. Asked how the wedding planning was going. She said, fine. They were narrowing down venues. I asked, careful as I could manage, whether she and Nathan had ever talked about where they'd settle down long term. Her face changed. Not dramatically, but enough. Why do you keep asking me that? Just curious. You've asked me some version of that 3 times now, Dad. She crossed her arms. Is this about Nathan? Do you not trust him? I didn't have a clean answer. And she read that instantly. The way daughters always seem to read their fathers instantly. He's been wonderful to me, she said, voice tightening. I don't understand why you can't just be happy for me. Maybe I am, I said, which was weak. And I knew it was weak the second it left my mouth. She didn't storm off. She's not that kind of person. But something shut between us that evening, quiet as a door easing closed. And for the better part of 2 weeks, she was harder to reach. Calls went to voicemail. Texts got short replies. I told myself it was worth it if it meant protecting her from something. I wasn't entirely sure I believed that yet. Then came the Thursday that changed the shape of everything. Nathan got in my truck looking wound tight with excitement, phone against his ear before I'd even pulled off the curb. It's all booked, he said. Then laughing, no, not yet. She'll find out with everybody else. My hands went tight on the wheel. He'd reserved the entire back room at the Cedarbrook Country Club for what he called the celebration, close to 120 guests, and he was planning to use the occasion, the engagement party itself, to announce the move to Charlotte publicly, framing it as a grand romantic surprise, without ever having discussed it with Bethany first. I sat with that for the whole rest of the drive. It wasn't cruelty exactly, what I was hearing. It was something else. Something with a colder name I didn't have yet. He wasn't scheming to hurt her. He was building an entire future and simply assumed she'd be grateful to be handed it, fully formed, no say in the blueprint. I called an old friend of mine, Ray Odom, retired now from 30 years with the county sheriff's department, the kind of man who doesn't waste words. We met for coffee at a diner off Highway 41 we'd been going to since before either of us had gray hair. I laid it all out, the job offer, the prenup, the surprise announcement, all of it. Ray listened without interrupting, which is rare for him. When I finished, he said, "You're hoping I'd tell you he's committing some kind of crime." Maybe. He's not. Guys like this rarely are. They're not villains, Walter. They're just convinced they're the smartest person in every room they walk into. He leaned back. What you actually need isn't proof that he's a bad man. You need proof that your daughter's making a decision without the whole picture. Simple. That was Ray's way. Practical. No drama. Driving home, I decided something else. Something Ray hadn't told me to do, but that felt necessary once I thought it through. Wisconsin's a one-party consent state, meaning I'm allowed to record a conversation I'm a part of, and legally speaking, I was part of every one of those rides. So starting the next week, I kept a small recorder in the truck's cup holder, running quietly whenever Nathan climbed in. Not to trap him, not to ruin him. Just so that whatever came next, nobody could say I'd misremembered, exaggerated, or invented anything out of jealousy or fear. If the truth ever needed telling, I wanted it in his own voice, not mine. Over the following 2 weeks, I gathered the pieces properly. The Charlotte job offer confirmed through a slip where he read a relocation date out loud to HR on speaker. The country club reservation, the caterer's name, the date, fragments of prenup language from a call with his attorney. None of it illegal. None of it especially shocking on its own. But laid end to end, it told one clear story. A life being built for two people, designed entirely by one of them. Meanwhile, Bethany and I stayed distant, polite at dinner, careful with each other, the kind of caution that hurts worse than an actual fight would. One night, Carol found me sitting alone in the garage, not doing anything, just sitting. "You miss her," she said. Not a question. Every day. Carol sat on the stool next to the workbench. "Whatever you decide to do, Walter, do it for Bethany. Not because you're angry at Nathan." "I'm not." "You are a little," she said gently, "and that's all right. Just don't let the anger drive the truck." That line stuck with me the rest of that week, longer than she probably meant it to. The morning before the engagement party, Nathan got in wearing a garment bag over his shoulder, made practically vibrating with nerves and excitement both. "Tomorrow's the big one," he said. "So I hear. Biggest night of my life so far." He glanced at his phone, then back up, almost thoughtful for once. "You know my fiancé doesn't have any idea what's coming?" I kept my eyes on the road. "No, not a clue," he said, grinning. Then something shifted, just barely, in his face. He looked at me, really looked, longer than the usual glance, and said, "Thanks for all the rides, Walter." I don't think I ever said that. It was strange, hearing him use my name. Strange and almost sad, the way a stranger's small kindness can be when you know what's coming for him in less than 24 hours. "Anytime," I said. He got out, adjusted his jacket, and walked toward his building. A man planning to unveil his perfect future to a room full of witnesses tomorrow night, with no idea whatsoever who'd been sitting 6 feet behind him the whole time, quietly holding every piece of the truth he hadn't told her. The engagement party was held on a warm Saturday evening at the Cedarbrook Country Club, string lights strung across the patio, a jazz trio playing near the bar, the kind of night built for good memories. Carol and I arrived a little before 6. Bethany spotted us and crossed the room fast, hugging us both, and for 1 second she was 8 years old again. Same laugh, same grip around my neck, and I nearly lost my nerve completely. Nearly. The evening rolled along easy for the first hour. Drinks, appetizers, laughter, Nathan working the room like he was born for it, shaking hands, telling stories, soaking up every compliment tossed his way. Around 7:30, someone dimmed the lights and tapped a glass, and the room quieted. Nathan climbed onto the small stage near the windows, champagne flute in hand, Bethany beside him, glowing, unaware. He thanked everyone for coming, talked about family, commitment, building something lasting. Thanked Bethany. Thanked both families. A few people wiped their eyes. Then he got to the part he'd clearly rehearsed. "I've always believed the best things in life come from bold decisions," he said. The room hushed further. He turned to Bethany. "I wanted tonight to be unforgettable." She laughed softly. "What did you do?" He turned back to the crowd, beaming. Bethany and I are thrilled to be starting our next chapter together in Charlotte, North Carolina. Applause broke out immediately. Then, just as quickly, it began to falter. Because Bethany wasn't clapping. She wasn't smiling anymore either. She looked confused, genuinely lost. "I'm sorry," she said. "What?" Nathan's smile flickered. "Just slightly. Enough." "The move," he said. "What move?" A few guests exchanged glances. Nathan tried again. "The job opportunity." Bethany stared at him. 4 words came out of her, quiet but clear enough that the microphone caught everyone. "What job opportunity, Nathan?" Silence dropped over that room like a lid coming down on a pot. I stood up. Slowly. No speech prepared, no scene, just a 58-year-old father rising at a banquet table. Nathan glanced my way, then did a double take. Longer this time. Something working behind his eyes as recognition tried to assemble itself out of pieces that didn't belong together. The voice, the face, a name he hadn't used in months suddenly surfacing. "Walter?" he said. I nodded. "Evening, Nathan." His face went pale under the stage lighting. A few guests murmured. Bethany's eyes moved from him to me and back again, more confused by the second. I spoke calmly. "Bethany, before anybody makes any more announcements tonight, I think there's a few questions worth asking." Nobody interrupted, not even Nathan. "Questions about what?" Bethany asked quietly. I looked at her, not at him. "When did Nathan tell you he'd accepted a job in Charlotte?" She turned to him. He said nothing. "When did he tell you he'd already talked to a real estate agent out there?" Still nothing. "When did he tell you there was already a prenuptial agreement drawn up?" The room felt like it had stopped breathing along with everyone in it. Nathan finally stepped forward. "Walter, this isn't the place." I held his gaze. "Isn't it?" That landed harder than I intended it to. A few people shifted in their seats. Bethany's arms crossed slowly over her chest, her voice dropping to something quiet and even. "When were you going to tell me?" Nathan swallowed hard. "I was going to." "When?" No answer. "This was supposed to be a surprise," he tried. "A surprise is a weekend trip, Nathan." Her voice didn't rise, but it cut clean. "Moving across the country isn't a surprise. It's a decision, one you apparently already made without me." I reached into my jacket and set a small folder on the table in front of her. Nothing dramatic, nothing illegal, just printed confirmations I'd gathered and verified over the past month. The job offer letter. Real estate listings in Charlotte with dates on the searches. The country club invoice, dated weeks earlier. And beneath it all, a single-page transcript, honest and unaltered, of 3 separate recorded conversations, each one time-stamped, each one in his own voice. Bethany read through them slowly, page by page. Each one told the same story from a slightly different angle. A future, fully built, with her name attached and her voice absent. Nathan started talking fast, trying to explain, trying to reframe it, and the more he talked, the worse it sounded, because every explanation circled back to the same fact he hadn't asked her. He hadn't discussed it with her. He'd simply decided and expected the rest of us, including her, to applaud on cue. Finally, Bethany looked up. Her eyes were wet, but it wasn't heartbreak sitting behind them. It was clarity, the sharp and painful kind. "You kept saying our future," she said, "but every decision in it was yours." Nathan opened his mouth. She didn't let him finish. "I loved you," she said, quiet now. "I really did." "I know," he said, and for the first time all night, he sounded like he meant something completely. "But you never once treated me like a partner." She slid the ring from her finger, slow and steady, and set it gently into his palm. "You treated me like a project you were managing." Nobody in that room moved. 10 minutes later, Nathan left alone. No scene, no shouting, just a man walking out under the weight of choices that had all, every one of them, been entirely his own. The weeks after weren't easy. Bethany was hurt, embarrassed, furious in waves that came and went. Some of that fury landed on me, and honestly, I understood it and accepted it without complaint. Trust rebuilds slowly, same as anything worth having. But little by little, things eased. 3 months later, she enrolled in an advanced certification program she'd been putting off for years. She found a small rental closer to us. Nothing fancy, just hers. And gradually, she started talking about the future again like it belonged to her. One Sunday, she came for dinner. Same as always. Helping me clear the table afterward, she looked at me sideways and said, "You know, Dad, you were something else during all that." "Something else how?" "Annoying," she said. "Deeply, deeply annoying." I laughed. "That's fair." She bumped my shoulder with hers. Then, quieter, "But thank you." That was enough. More than enough. Looking back now, I understand something I didn't always understand as a younger father. For years, I thought protecting my daughter meant fixing every hard thing before it reached her. It doesn't. Sometimes it just means putting the truth in front of somebody you love and trusting them to decide what happens next on their own. If you've ever had to choose between staying quiet and risking a relationship to tell the truth, you already know how heavy that choice can be. Sometimes it's worth carrying anyway. Thank you for listening to my story. Real love doesn't decide for someone, it makes room beside them. Walter didn't win by proving Nathan wrong. He won by handing his daughter the truth and stepping back, trusting her to choose her own road. That's the quiet gift of family. Not fixing every storm for the people we love, just staying close enough to catch them if they stumble, and letting them stand back up themselves. A small note for you. This story was written and fictionalized by AI purely for entertainment, though we hope its little life lessons still landed somewhere warm.